free, hit it.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to today's Caffeine for the Soul. If you would like to embark on a basic course, an introduction to the inside-out understanding that I share in these podcasts week on week, you can go to michaelneill.org/basic, and you can do one for free. Now, I'm excited about this one because the question at the heart, at the top, at the title of this podcast is, what do you want for you? And that question has changed my life multiple times. And I first saw it on the back of a little book called To Love Is to Be Happy With by Barry Neill Kaufman. Now, to love is to be happy with is another great sentence, but we'll save that for another time. What do you want for you? I remember when I first saw that, I thought, I don't think I've ever asked myself that question. And I realized that my wants for me were surprisingly simple. And I was probably in my 20s, so I was at an age where, life hadn't beaten desire out of me yet. But it still surprised me that, what I wanted for me was quite, I wanted happiness. I wanted to feel close to my wife. I wanted to do well at my work. Like there was nothing like, I mean, at that time, I didn't want a Ferrari. It was just like, I just wanted some pretty basic things. Now, over the years, sometimes what I wanted for me has been more tangible, more material. And then at other times, it's been even simpler. It's just been peace. It's just been love. It hasn't even been love for or from anyone. It's just been to relax into being, to rest. Now, we could call me a spokesperson for authentic desire. We could call me an apologist for desire, because desire gets a really bad name because we confuse desire with lust. And we kind of know lust is bad, right? Lust is craving. When the Buddha said desire is the root of all suffering, that confused me. Because my experience of desire, of just the simple energy of wanting something, was beautiful. It created no suffering in me. And so I spoke to a professor of comparative Buddhism, and he said, well, it's an inaccurate translation. He said a more accurate translation, and I don't know if it's Sanskrit or Pali, I don't know what language it was originally written in, but is craving is the root of all suffering. Misunderstood desire is the root of all suffering. Lust is the root of all suffering. Now, what those things have in common is on top of what you want is the perceived threat of not getting it. So if you want it, you have to be prepared to be miserable if you don't get it. And that drives you towards it. And that kind of malignant desire, that kind of desire plus insecurity, that really does look like the root of all suffering, or at least a heck of a lot of it. But simple desire is just fun. It's fun to want stuff if you don't think you have to get it. It's fun to want cool things. It's fun to want cool experiences, unless and until you start thinking your life isn't complete if you don't have them. And that is true from somebody who's started out with nothing to someone who has seemingly everything. I'm not going to name drop, but I know some people with a lot of money. And one of them shared an experience that I thought was kind of brilliant because it was so human, just at a level most of us humans are never going to experience. He had bought this new state-of-the-art private plane. And he was with his friends flying to the south of France, and they stopped at whatever airport the private planes stop at to refuel on the way to the south of France. And this other guy who was even more successful had bought an even bigger brand new private plane. And it was parked next to him on the jetway. And that guy invited my guy and his friends onto the plane. And the guy I worked with, he didn't want to go. And he said, no, I'm not going to go. And they asked him why not. And he said, because I love my plane. But if I go on his plane, I'm going to start wanting that. Now, we've all kind of know that at our own level. It's very easy to start looking at what somebody else has and feel bad about what you have. That is nothing to do with desire. That is insecurity. Desire is soft. Desire is simple. Desire is fun. And desire marks the path. If you follow your simple desires, they actually take you on the perfect path for you. So if you want to live a more aligned life, if you want to live more in tune with your own wisdom, with your own knowing, to follow your own path, one of the best ways to find that path is to follow your simple wanting, to follow simple desire. There's another question that I found in that book, To Love Is to Be Happy With. And the whole book is based on the work of a former Jesuit priest named Bruce DeMarsico. And this question that I'm about to share with you, I know from my experience that it occasionally fries people's brains a little bit the first time they hear it. So I'll say it, and then I'll say it again. And if you get it the first time, that's fine. But what would you want if you didn't have to be unhappy about not getting it? I'll ask it again. What would you want if you didn't have to be unhappy about not getting it? In other words, what do you want whether or not you get it? What do you want just because you want it? What do you want because it's fun to want? What would you allow yourself to want if you didn't have to make yourself feel bad until you got it? And for most people, if they sit with that question, it unleashes a whole other layer of very simple desires. And you don't have to chase them. You don't have to turn them into goals. You can simply allow that energy of desire, that energy of life, to carry you forward. And you may find that not only do you wind up having a lot more of what you want, but your experience of going for and getting it feels so perfectly in line with life that the game of life becomes more fun than ever. Have fun, learn heaps, happy exploring, and I'll talk with you soon.